In 2020, Eric Goldstein saw his doctor about a seemingly routine vision problem and walked away with news that would turn his life upside down. And he joins us now on the show. Eric, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So tell us a little bit about your life before April of 2020 and then about how your life changed in April of 2020.
Well, before the lightning struck, I was just a regular guy. I had a family, I had a job, I was autonomous, I was able to do things, that we take for granted. I had the resources and the means to travel wherever I wanted to go in Michigan because I could drive. We don't have any decent public transportation around here. So if you don't drive or have access to a vehicle, it's very challenging. I had a job, I worked, I still have a job, I still work, but life was like that. Then the lightning struck, I had the tumor discovered, we immediately got me into surgery. I had a post-surgical recovery, and it went really well, but I don't see so good. I have a vision impairment. I understand the state of Michigan thinks I'm safe to drive. I don't think so. So I rely upon the kindness of friends and neighbors and family to help get me everywhere I need to go every day.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein. Oh, please continue. Sorry about that.
But that's something that's easy for people to try to relate to. The biggest change is the awareness that I have a profoundly life-shortening brain cancer. I didn't know that before. I know that now. And having that awareness, that presents challenges to your outlook and how you want to live your life and how you want to feel every day.
So we're joined by Eric Goldstein. He has a YouTube show titled Here We Go, which will be premiering on Saturday, October 2nd of this week to talk about his journey to discovering that he had glioblastoma, which is a form of a brain tumor and aggressive brain cancer that he and his doctors discovered in April of 2020. That will be premiering again Saturday, October 2nd on YouTube, and the name of that show is Here We Go. So Eric, what prompted you to go visit the doctor in April of 2020 when you then had your diagnosis for glioblastoma?
I was having vision issues, which have been ongoing for a long time. But I had acclimated to them and wasn't really too aware of how they were worsening. But then while I was at a rehearsal for a local community theater production, I was directing a show for the Rosedale Community Players in Southfield at the time. And, I was trying to read out loud from the script to say the lines of an actor who was absent from rehearsal. And I could not read at the speed of speech. And I thought, well, that's a vision problem that I just don't want to live with. And I went to the eye doctor the next day, and the optometrist couldn't find anything wrong. And then they had me come in the following day to see the ophthalmologist. That's fun to say, ophthalmologist. I try to say that a lot, ophthalmologist. But after about 3 or 4 hours of testing, they were able to confirm that I had a significant vision impairment, but could find no explanation for it with my eyes. So they suspected it was a problem with the brain. Regardless, it was all in my head as far as I was concerned. But they scheduled me for an MRI, and at that MRI, we discovered a Vienna sausage-sized tumor, in the occipital lobe, the vision center in the back of my head.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein. He is from Here We Go, which is a one-man show that will be premiering on YouTube on Saturday, October 2nd. He joins us today to talk about his experiences from being diagnosed with an aggressive form of brain cancer known as glioblastoma in April of 2020. And that YouTube show will again premiere Saturday, October 2nd. And so how has this changed your perspective on life, your experience with this aggressive form of brain cancer? Has it changed your perspective? Has it changed how you approach your day-to-day life?
At this juncture, it has changed my day-to-day life, and that I have to spend a lot of time trying to coordinate transportation to medical appointments, to work, to social events, to rehearsal, to whatever it is that I'm doing. I have to find a way to get there that does not involve me driving. Day to day, I still am recovering from the massive experience of radiation and chemotherapy, and I'm still suffering. I don't like the word suffering, but I'm still experiencing fatigue just about every day. I need a nap every afternoon, or I pay for it later. So I don't read and write very well, at least by the metric of speed. It takes me a lot longer to read. It takes me a lot longer to write. And the exercise of reading and writing is exhausting. These are just a few examples of how it's impacted my day-to-day life. But I'm not sure I've addressed the totality of your question.
Yeah, I'm just curious how, just philosophically, the way that you approach your life, the way that you think about the life that you have lived, the life that you continue to live while you're dealing with this brain cancer, and your perspective going forward. How has that been impacted by your experience with glioblastoma?
Well, when my wife and I were first advised by the surgeon who removed as much of the tumor as he could, they had learned it was a glioblastoma after they had removed the tumor and performed pathology studies and figured that out. And that doctor advised us, this was our first exposure to this, that this is a life-shortening event, and that we should think about 5 years. And we later learned that was actually a pretty optimistic outlook, but that's a different discussion. That impact of life shortening and think about 5 years, it made me, as Margaret and I, my wife Margaret and I were driving back, we were reflecting upon that and its significance, well, I immediately thought to my children. They're young adults. They're in their 20s, and what I wanted to see and do for them. But looking back on my life, I was like, I've had a family. I've got a decent job. I'm able to provide. I've been engaged in lovely hobbies and community theater and had wonderful experiences. What is it that I need to get done in 5 years? People were talking about bucket lists. I'm not big on bucket lists because I don't want to feel a sense of loss or lack of success if I don't get to something that's on the bucket list. And I just, my first experience there was thinking, if I just want to see these daughters of mine go get a few more steps further and make sure that they're, on their path and doing well. And I was content. I'm not ready to die. I'm not ready to be done with life's adventure. But I did not feel initially this horrible sense of loss, because I have lived this much already, and I've done so much, and I've been blessed to have such wonderful family and life experiences. Now, does that mean I'm ready to go? No, not remotely. But philosophically, I've been struggling and developing a way to measure my time now. Am I making good use of it? And what are some good metrics for that? And I talk about that a lot in the Here We Go project, about how you can, how we all can as individuals, find these metrics to define, are we making good use of our time? And the big perspective here is, I know that I only have a few years, or even months, but probably more like a few years. But But any one of us, you can have a piano fall on your head tomorrow and you're done. I mean, we all should be thinking about our time and what we want to be doing with it. And if we are satisfied and comfortable with the track that we're on. This isn't really about me because I have a life-shortening event. This is about all of us because we are all alive. And by definition, that ends for everyone. We all are going to die. But our culture likes to ignore that. And so I want to call attention to what we have and how to value it. And that's what Here We Go is about in a lot of ways.
So why then present your story and present these lessons through a YouTube show, through a one-man YouTube show like Here We Go? What ultimately led to your decision to produce this show, to put it together, to write it, to perform in it, and tell your story and provide your lessons that you've learned from this experience, from crafting your next 5 years, that is your prognosis? How did that come into play and then ultimately lead to you producing Here We Go?
I was provoked by a theater friend to write it. He said, Eric, you've been doing such a great job explaining what's going on to me, and I think you should sit down and write a one-man play about it. And by the way, here's a deadline for you, about 5 weeks out. And I took him up on it. And I wrote it, and playwriting, it takes a lot of sweat equity. And you need do a lot of editing and reading and writing, and I can't do that anymore. So I asked him, and I brought in 2 other people. The 3 of us worked on it together to make it better, and then we decided, how are we going to perform this? What's the point of writing it if we don't perform it? And at that time, this is October, November, December of 2020. Live theaters are shut down, so we wanted to perform this in a live setting with an audience we can actually interact with, and I'd still want to do that in the future. But we want to get this thing going now as quickly as we can and as well as we can. So we looked at live streaming it, we looked at recording it, and talked and consulted with people who knew what they were doing, and we came to the conclusion that we should shoot this thing, we should record it, send it through all the complicated and underappreciated post-production process. I think those post-production people ought to get 20% raises immediately across the world, and all the engineers too, for all the work that they do to make us look good. But that's what we decided to do. We're gonna record it and put it out there on the YouTube. Now, if someday we get to do a live show and interact with the real audience, I would love that. But we would want to be able to do that safely, and for the purposes of this particular project, I would want to be able to safely be unmasked to promote the intimacy. So we're just going to wait. We're going to wait until that's safe to do.
So people can find Here We Go on YouTube. It premieres this Saturday, October 2nd. I know you want to take an opportunity to give out the site for that. Is there a specific YouTube page that people should be looking for to find this show on Saturday?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, and the site for it is too long for me to speak. But if you do a search and just go, Here We Go brain cancer, or Here We Go Goldstein, or Here We Go, a tale of living, loving, blah, 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 cancer, you'll find it. It's there. We've already got 2 trailers up on the channel now. So if you wanted to go look now and see if you could find it.
We do have a link to that channel, and then so Calvin, who's our board operator and our studio producer, he also posts, does our post-production and posts all of our interviews and full episode to our website later on today. I'll give him that link, and we'll provide that link in the description for this interview, which you'll be able to find on demand later on this afternoon at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Again, we're joined by we're joined by Eric Goldstein from Here We Go. It's a one-man show about his experience with an aggressive form of brain cancer called glioblastoma. That show premieres Saturday at 7 p.m. on his YouTube channel. And you're also asking, as people view this this show and as people learn your story and take in these lessons, you're also asking that they make some donations to good causes as well to help other people through similar experiences. Where would you ask them to donate?
It's we are trying to get contributions to one specific fund managed by the Henry Ford Health System. It is a fund that tries to help glioblastoma families like mine that aren't as fortunate. I mean, I'm able to work, so we're good. But this fund will help keep food on the table and keep families in their homes. It's 100% charitable. We aren't getting anything. Henry Ford isn't getting anything. All monies raised will go into this fund. And we will be providing information on how to access that fund to make donations. The Henry Ford Health System has this charitable webpage called Game on Cancer. So you can search for Game on Cancer, search for the Here We Go project, and because they have lots of things, they have lots of teams, on Game on Cancer trying to do different things, for research or this fund or that fund or the other fund. But our particular fund for the families to keep food on the table and keep in their homes, it's on the Game on Cancer through our Here We Go project. So go up there, look for it, and they'll immediately email you that documentation that helps you do your taxes for charitable donations.
We're joined by Eric Goldstein. He is from Here We Go. It's just a one-man show that he has produced about his experiences dealing with an aggressive form of brain cancer called glioblastoma and the lessons he's learned along the way as he's gone through the process of being diagnosed, gone through treatment, and gone through learning his prognosis of about 5 years and how that's changed his perspective on the life that he's currently living and the life that others should be living in whatever time they may have. That show is Here We Go. It will premiere on Saturday at 7:00 p.m. on YouTube. Again, to search on YouTube for that, we'll provide a link, but if you search on YouTube, search for Here We Go, a tale of living, learning, and loving with brain cancer. Eric, just another minute or two with you today before we'll say goodbye. Any last lessons to provide today before we say goodbye, or lasting words of wisdom and advice for our audience that is watching this interview today, watching it on demand, and wants to learn some lessons from someone that has received a changed perspective on life in recent years?
You can choose to wallow in the bad news, or you can choose to just be aware of it and find a way forward. If you have the internal tools to make that choice. I've been blessed. I'm lucky enough. I've been able to make that choice. I have the support of friends and family to help me make that choice. And I have not been relegated as other by my peers and friends and family. I don't have to tell them I'm still here. I don't have to tell them I'm still me. But if anyone's suffering from any kind of horrible condition, you get to stay yourself, but I hope you don't have to assert it. But if you do, assert it and be and stay real, stay who you are, and find your way forward.
Eric, we appreciate your time. Thank you for telling us your story, informing us about Here We Go, so people can learn more of the lessons that you've learned along your journey, and maybe even it changes their perspective on the life that they're living. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.